But as Christianity became the Roman Empire's religion, it all fell apart. Hello. Today I'm going to discuss the Eleusinian, Orphic, and Mithraic mystery schools. Before we get into this, we have to define the word mystery in this context. Just to give you some insight, I found a few words that define it better. Mysterion means mystery or secret rite. It comes from the verb mieo, which means I teach or initiate into the mysteries. A mystis is one who is initiated. Mystikos is a mystic connected with the mysteries. So I think the best way is to think about it like this. When we watch a mystery movie or read a mystery book, there is something deep down inside of us that wants to be led into the mystery, led into the secret. It's almost like we are initiated into the story, and there is a power in knowing this secret, especially if you try to talk about this book or film with another person. It's like you know the arc, you know where it goes. And I would go so far as to say that this is the true purpose of life. The ancients certainly thought so. Just to get your bearings, here is a basic timeline. 1500 BCE was the Eleusinian Mysteries. That's when they started. 600 BCE, Orphism emerges. Late 1st century CE, Mithraic Mysteries began. 392 to 396, the Eleusinian Mysteries end. Late 4th and early 5th century, Mithraism disappears. 5th century to 6th century, Orphism fades from history. So as you can see, the different traditions overlapped. The really important thing to remember here is that in 392 CE, imperial decrees against pagan cults effectively ended the Eleusinian Mysteries as well as all other pagan threads. The Eleusinian sanctuary was destroyed by the Visigoths in 396 CE. So if you really want to understand history, the 400 years from the birth of Jesus to the fall of these mysteries were probably the most fundamental shifts in history. The church took hold. The Gnostics were wiped out during this period. I can't stress how much the world changed during this time. Eleusinian Mysteries. Some findings in the temple in Attica suggest that their basis was an old agrarian cult, but we will probably never know how far back into antiquity it stretches. Comes from Eleusinia Mysteria, and the initiations represented the myth of the abduction of Persephone from her mother Demeter by the king of the underworld Hades in a cycle with 3 phases: the descent or loss, the search, and the main theme is the ascent of Persephone and the reunion with her mother. If one looks at this Gnostically, the descent is like suffering, the dark night of the soul, the entry into the underworld. The search is the mythic journey to awaken gnosis, a light in the dark, and the ascent is restoration. What separates this from a lot of other things in history is that anyone could participate. It didn't matter were you free, slave, rich, or poor, man or woman. It was unusually inclusive for the time. Nearly any Greek-speaking person who was free of serious ritual pollution, which basically meant anyone that didn't murder anybody, was able to do this. The main rituals included purification, fasting, a ceremonial procession from Athens to Eleusis, the drinking of the kekion, a possibly psychoactive ritual beverage, the secret ceremonies inside the telesterion, the initiation hall. I'm distilling this all down for this video, but I've been doing research on this for, 3 years for a novel I'm working on, and I can tell you it goes very, very, very deep. Too much to put in a video. But if you're interested in this, I definitely think you should read some books on it. I'll put some of my favorites on the screen here. And I talk more about the kekion in this video. For the initiates, Persephone's rebirth symbolized the enduring cycle of life and the promise of reward in the afterlife. Participants swore an oath to not reveal the ceremonies, which is why the exact rituals are unknown. There were 2 grades aside from all the hierophants, priests, and priestesses. The first grade is the mustai, which means initiates. Comes from the Greek word mien, meaning to close, especially the eyes or lips, referring to secrecy. The apoptai are those who have seen, or the beholders. They're the second stage of initiates. They had already completed the ceremony a year before. They become one of the apopteia, the seeing or the vision, considered the highest and most profound revelation of the mysteries. The rites in the telesterion had three elements. The dromena, which means things done, was a reenactment of the Demeter Persephone myth. The deichnoumena, which means things shown, which was a display of the sacred objects. And the legomena, which is things said, and that is commentaries that accompanied the sacred objects. When you combine all three of these acts, you get the aporita, which means unrepeatables or unspeakable things. And the penalty for divulging them was death. As far as the objects, only initiates knew what the kiste, the sacred chest, and the kalathis, which was the lidded basket, contained. The things that they showed remain a mystery to this day. I mean, what could it have been? I have my theories. You can give your thoughts below. At the very fundamental level, I suspect it was a kind of symbol or proof that revealed the true situation of life. Perhaps this could have been some kind of supernatural or magical truth, but some kind of element that proves that we are not in a finite situation, that metempsychosis can be broken. The myth of air, found at the end of Plato's Republic, is often seen as reflecting the teachings of the Eleusinian Mysteries. After being killed in battle, air travels to the underworld but returns to life without drinking from the river Lethe, so he remembers everything he experienced. He shares what he saw in the afterlife, showing that the soul lives on and suggesting that death is something to be understood rather than feared. I have a video where I talk about this from a Gnostic angle. You can check that out if you want to. But as Christianity became the Roman Empire's religion, it all fell apart. And I think a great crime to humanity happened then. Orphic Mysteries. So the Orphics emphasize purification, the immortality of the soul, and liberation from the cycle of rebirth. It was inspired by the legendary poet and musician Orpheus, who was believed to have journeyed to the underworld and returned. Like the myth of Demeter and Persephone, this involves descending, finding the boon, and returning. Through metempsychosis, the souls are repeatedly reincarnated until they are purified. A distinctive Orphic myth tells that the infant god Dionysus Zagreus was torn apart by the Titans. It's debated that Zagreus means something like hunter or great hunter, or he of the pit, or lord of the abyss. This is Dionysus in his underworld or hunter aspect. Zeus destroyed the Titans with lightning, and from their ashes humanity was created. Because humans inherited both the Titans' sinful nature and Dionysus's divine essence, they possess both a mortal and divine side. And the goal of life is to purify the divine soul from this earthly contamination. Sounds quite Gnostic, doesn't it? But the body, soma, was inherited from the Titans, and the divine spark or soul, psyche, was inherited from Dionysus. To achieve salvation, to break from the titanic or archonic material existence, one needs to be initiated into the mysteries and undergo telete, a ritual purification and reliving of the suffering and death of the god. If you don't know, Dionysus or Bacchus was torn apart and reassembled again. To be initiated is to be torn apart and reassembled again. To be uninitiated, amuetos, means to reincarnate indefinitely. It was also said that the soul returns to a host 10 times, bound to the wheel of rebirth. So whether it's 10 times or indefinitely, I don't know. Even 10 times sounds like a total hell to me. But this sounds just like the Gnostics and their rejection of the material world. One thing to note, though, Orphism was not organized into a mystery school, really, in the same way as the other mysteries in here. They did have initiation rites, but they didn't have a special temple, headquarters, or annual festival like Eleusis. They were more loosely organized. I suppose you could see their priests more like Jesus as a kind of wandering initiator, and most information we know about them comes from some surviving texts. I will put them on the screen here. There are a few, but a lot of what we know about Orphism comes from the writings of Plato and later philosophers. There are also parallels with elements of Pythagoreanism. One more curious thing, the firstborn deity and creator god in Orphism is Phanes, or Protogonos. which means firstborn. The revealer, the one who appears, the one who brings to light. The primeval deity who was born from the cosmic egg at the beginning of creation. Some other names, Erikopeos, which means power, and Metis, which means thought. Those that know Gnostic cosmology will recognize the parallels here. Forces like Protophanes, Dynamis, and Noia, they are the same. It's all here. Phanes is often equated with Eros or Mithras and has been shown as a deity emerging from a cosmic egg, entwined with the serpent, the Orphic egg. But let's talk more about Mithra and Mithras. Mithraic Mysteries. This is a Roman mystery religion, sometimes called the cult of Mithras. It was inspired by Iranian worship of the Zoroastrian divinity Mithra, which was a good Yazada, and this stems back to the Sanskrit Mitra. Mithra is associated with truth and oaths, covenants, contracts and agreements, justice and moral judgment, protection of warriors and communities, light, vigilance, especially the dawn's light or the sun's first light. But the Roman version was linked with Sol Invictus, which means the unconquered sun, light overcoming darkness, cosmic order. The Roman army embraced this from the 1st to the 4th century. This is the name of the initiates. I'm not going to bother pronouncing it. It's too hard. Those who are united by the right hand. They met in underground temples and caves called the Mithraea or Mithraeum, and this was viewed as a rival of early Christianity. Like the Gnostics, they faced persecution in the 4th century. But the main imagery associated with the cult was a warrior born from a rock, a slaughtering of a bull, a sharing a banquet with a god, Sol, the sun. The Tauroctony is the bull slaying. The bull represents ecstatic divine power, fertility, the god's animal nature, our bestial nature. In the imagery, Mithras wears an Eastern-style cape and clothing, kneels over a bull and plunges his knife in or sword. There are dogs, snakes, scorpion, raven, or other kind of symbols that often appear. It represents a cosmic event, creation, renewal, ordering of the universe. I think the word covenant probably aligns the best here. When they talk about the right handshake, I think they're talking about an oath, but a very serious oath. Like the Eleusinian Mysteries, I think this oath was bound by death. Only male names appear in the surviving inscribed membership lists, but there is some evidence of women on the outside. I think since it was a warrior cult, it probably drew mostly men. It had a hierarchy of 7 initiation levels, often interpreted as stages of spiritual advancement. I'll put them on the screen here. Aside from the Tauroctony, Mithraic images included the sun, planets, stars, zodiac imagery. An odd detail, though, are these naked, lion-headed human statues found at many sites. It is called Aramanius, a lion-headed statue. A typical statue shows a human head, a lion's head, a naked or semi-naked figure, a serpent wrapped around the body, often spiraling upward like the caduceus, sometimes 2 or 4 wings, symbols such as keys, a torch, or a globe. There are several possible interpretations of this. Some scholars say it's a cosmic time deity called Aeon, ironically, a guardian of cosmic secrets. Some link it to Ahriman, the destructive spirit of Zoroastrians. To me, it looks like the demiurge. The snakes and lion and zodiac imagery are connected to that. I mean, all the symbols line up, but it makes me wonder about its link to the Gnostic worlds. Were these groups overlapping? All these groups were active during the same time in the same regions. Eleusis was the oldest, but they definitely all overlapped. It seems like a kind of parallel development with very similar intellectual environments. The Gnostic cosmic mistake and the fallen divine element in Orphism line up. There are key ideas that resemble Gnosticism in all of the traditions. The soul is divine but trapped. The soma sema, the body is the tomb of the soul. This is a dictum by Plato, which is a very Gnostic idea. In Platonism, the soul belongs to the intelligible realm, but becomes entangled within the sensible world. Metempsychosis is present in all of these traditions. Orpheus and Persephone had their soul journeys. In their situation, the soul went through underworld gates, had divine recognition, and then led to immortality. In Gnostic ascent, The soul leads to the planetary rulers and archons and the understanding of them through secret knowledge, and then the return to the divine realm, transcending them. So they all had their secret revelations and hidden teachings. And they shared a layered cosmology, a kind of cosmic ladder. But I think the switch from pagan to Christian obviously destroyed all of this. There were laws that restricted pagan sacrifice, and a lot of this had to do with sacrifice of bulls and things. The temples were closed, or in some extreme cases, like the Gnostics, they were wiped out. And then officially, the Nicene Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, and it all ended. I find this actually quite sad, actually. Just thinking about all the information that was lost, what the world might have been like back then. I mean, I know it wasn't easy. It's never easy. And it's easy to kind of use rose-colored glasses with this. But I feel like people have more of a connection to what life really is. And we feel very, very, very far away from that, in my opinion, as a culture. But that's all I got for this. If you have anything to say about these, if you would initiate yourself into one of them, you can comment that below too. From my research, I think I align most with the Eleusinian, but I mean, I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got. Take care. Have a good day.